Okay, another tutorial about a specific data type, this time the boolean. So we'll just jump right in. So I have a simple setup. Go ahead and play this. So you can see I have an ellipse just drawn here at the center, and it's 100 by 100. In fact, what I want to do is code this in such a way that the ellipse starts out with 0 radius and grows to a certain size, and I've got it at 100. I think I'll make it 200 actually, or 250. And once it gets to that size, it actually decreases, and when it gets to 0, it changes back. So basically, grows and shrinks, grows and shrinks, grows and shrinks. So how are we going to do that? Well, first off, let's just start by making it grow. So the first thing we need to do, since we have an ellipse that's a fixed position, that's fine, but we have a set number here, 100. Really what we need is a variable. So let's go to the top, and for the radius of an ellipse we want to float. We'll just call it rad, and let's just make that 0. Make both of those rad. So again, we're using a variable so that we can change something over time. And as we do this, let's go ahead and say rad, and I cannot remember, I don't think I've used this before in the past. We could say rad equals rad plus 1, or we can do this just as shorthand. It's one of these things that happens enough, doing something that just adds up as it goes along by a certain number, in this case 1. So we're just going to say plus plus, right? So the radius is just going to start at 0, and as it goes along, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Let's go ahead and fire that up. All right. So problem is it's going to get bigger and bigger. Now, let's just put an if statement in here. All right, so we have it growing, growing. So the natural response would be, well, if it gets to, if rad equal 250, and in this case here, we're not saying the radius or the rad variable equals 250, we're doing a comparative statement. So in this, we want to have double equals. So this is comparing if this is equal to that. Doing it twice basically says is equal, if it is equal. Then let's say rad minus. You can see, so it got to this point here, and it stopped, got to 250, and every time what it's doing, it's adding 1 and subtracting 1, adding 1 and subtracting 1, because this logical statement, it doesn't help us out, because I can say if, in fact, let's go ahead and play this. I can just say if it's less than 0, or if it's greater than 0, go ahead and grow, would be another way to do the plus plus. But then I can say if it equals 250, subtract it, but I want it to keep going, and I can't say if it's less than 250, because this one says it's more than 250. So what I need is basically a toggle switch to turn things on and off. Once a condition's met, make that switch true until one specific bit of logic is important, and this is where we're going to use the boolean. Right? So boolean, and we're going to call this full. And to start, I'm going to say it's false. Let's go ahead and stop that right there. And we'll say, so again, you can see it's colored orange over here. So you can see it's a variable type that's being called. So instead of a float or an integer, we have, in fact, let's just put an integer here so you can see count 0. So you can see we have a float. Really what this is that. We can see integer count, which is 0, and boolean is full, and we're going to name this false. Okay, so that's what it's set to be. So let's just say if full equals false, let's just delete this for now. Just didn't see it working. All right, so we should see this grow, and it's not going to stop, right? And now what we'll do is put another little statement in here. If full, let's see, if, how do we want to do this, radius equals 250, let's just say that full equals true. And if, and again, there might be a way to sequence this together so it's a little bit cleaner, but I just want you to see the little building blocks in a simple kind of fashion here. So let's say if full equals true, let's say rad minus minus. In fact, we can start, then we can simplify a little bit here. Let's just say if rad, well, no, let's leave that where it's at. Oops, sorry, we don't want to compare there, we just want it to equal that value. Okay, so this might be a little deceiving. You see that seemed to work. I'll go ahead and play it again. What's happening is, it starts at 0 and it grows up to 250. Because we said if it's not full, go ahead and add. But if it gets to 250, tell everyone that it's full. And it appears like it ping-pongs back, but actually it looped on itself. So it's actually going minus 250. It's actually working in the opposite direction, kind of negative scale. So it's just going to keep growing. So no surprise, we need to say if full equals, oops, oh no, let's see, if radius equals 0, full equals false. So we got it to 250 and it's full. And it got back to 0. And hopefully it should ping pong back and forth again. There we go. Okay, so again, the whole idea is that it might seem like a lot, but we have certain conditions. We have 4 things that we're trying to figure out. We want to figure out if it's full or not, and if it's full, add stuff. If it's not, if it is full, subtract stuff. If it isn't full, add things to it. And this is a kind of simple little piece of code. We have 4 kind of logic statements going on. But just remember that the Boolean type is great for kind of larger bits where you have all this code, you have all these things happening, and then a certain condition is met, and you turn that switch, and that switch is going to stay true or stay false until it gets told to be something else. There'd be no other way to do this with just saying if the radius equals a certain amount, because it wouldn't make sense. It's going in between these two. We have to basically turn one condition on and off to get this thing to work. Right? So yeah, just about 10 minutes. How you use this, you'll probably have to experiment a little bit. And again, do little tiny tests to see how these things work. Just remember this is just a yes, no, true, false kind of statement. Other things that might not have been aware of, this conditional statement here of equals. So this compares 2 things to see if it's true. And this one just assigns a value to a variable when we have the single equal. For those of you that are a little more experienced, there are shorthand ways, obviously, to do full. But at this point, I don't want to add those to the mix. I want to keep this kind of simple so people can see what the syntax is. But there are ways to shorten some of these things down, which we did here with the rad variable. Instead of saying rad equals rad plus 1, we just said plus plus, which is the same thing. All right, I hope that helps.